Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm trying something different. They say that you need to try different things to achieve different results. So, that's what I'm doing. Right now I'm turning on the fans. Like literally, turning on the fans on the treadmill, overhead, on your side of the screen. And I'm doing that because I'm showing a journey of success, what it might look like. So right now, I'm 1 minute into a 4-minute warm-up using my fitness device and my favorite pair of running shoes, because I'm delving into an endurance sport known as running, you know, the thing that we did naturally as children. So today on this channel, I want to talk about the word bigot. And I want to talk about that because some of us think a specific way about a bigot, the word bigot. I'm looking at the definition right now. A bigot is a person who is obstinately or unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction, especially one who is prejudiced against or antagonistic towards a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular group. So, what does this mean? And why do I want to talk about this subject? Have you ever known a bigot? Have you ever been a bigot? Maybe even without knowing it? Like, for an example, if we're constantly looking at a generation or a type of consumer or a member of or someone who associates with an allegiance to a political group, have you ever taken and looked at someone, one of those people, and decided that they're no longer worth talking with because for whatever reason, anything that they say will be not worth your time? That's generational teachings of bigotry. Because as a child, again, coming back to the subject of what I'm doing here, walking, running, well, I'm doing the walking warm-up before I start running in about 2 minutes here. The things that came naturally as a child sometimes have been taught out of us, like telling the truth. Not too long ago, I was talking to a family member about the word bigot, and I was talking about it because I had used it. Have you ever seen The Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne calls the prison warden, or the chief, whatever you call the leader of the prison? He says, "Don't be so obtuse." And the warden kind of gets really upset. And the word isn't really a demeaning word. It's actually used in context. So I was talking with a relative about the word bigot and how it applies when we, for an example, discredit an entire political faction, or when we discount something just because someone is younger and might have information to share that's insightful, but for whatever reason they don't want that information to be shared. They are unreasonably attached to a belief, opinion, or faction. Similar words to bigot are listed as sectarian, chauvinist, partisan, and racist. So, while these are all true, it's kind of like thinking about the word narcissism. There are varying degrees of unreasonable behavior towards another group. Like, let's say insects, for an example. It's time to start running. Now you're going to notice I'm not really running at a super speed. That's because I'm just starting. But you are going to see that I'm going to sweat during this workout. This is another thing that some of us don't really understand because we don't do it. We're supposed to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're supposed to feel relaxed. And so I wanted to record this video to show you that even as difficult as a transformation might seem, if we are not unreasonably averse to the teachings of other people, no matter what generation, then perhaps we are also not averse to learning from other generations or creeds or political party members or anything like that. All of these things seem quite reasonable to talk about on the surface, but I'm going to revert this story to what I was talking about, which is that I was talking with a relative, and this relative had in the past used all kinds of subterfuge, confusion tactics to try and keep a conversation from occurring that included too much truth. The truth is very hard for some people to accept because in general we've all been taught varying levels of bigotry. And if you don't believe me, ask yourself the next time you're outside and a wasp flies around you, how do you react versus when a butterfly flies around you? Is it in an unreasonable way because you've been taught that this thing can harm you? Just because something can harm you doesn't really mean it's out to harm you. So that's basically probably the most profound role of bigotry, is to create an unnatural fear that prevents conversation from occurring. And the way, I'll call it our former generation, even though our current generation practices it. In a way, our former generation used to teach that sharing information that was true could be so insulting that we would say it's airing dirty laundry to talk about these subjects. And that's putting words to something as a generality. Same as this person I was talking with, when I was younger, would always say, stop hiding behind your mother's skirt. Now this form of demeaning the requirements to fully share a conversation with the adults in my life who were charged with my well-being if they wanted to nurture me was a form of bigotry. It was an unnatural response where anything I would say was discredited. But it wasn't just me. That person would say the same thing to other younger people than them. It was an unnatural, unreasonable type of teaching. And that teaching was carried on possibly because they had learned that themselves. Maybe they were bullied in their youth, and maybe they weren't able to overcome the bigotry. maybe, for whatever reason, many of us are still trying to run from the effects, the side effects, the health-related issues that have to do with not treating ourselves well and also not treating others well. That's just a thought. At the end of last year, I found out that I'd received some gifts. And some of those included gifts to a local sporting store where they carried certain things like this smart device that I'm wearing. This smart device is actually pretty amazing. It's got links to, within the phone app, within the mobile device app, it's got links to where you can connect it to training sessions. Right now, I'm training to be able to run a 5K, just 3.107 miles, continuously. As you can tell, I'm jogging it right now. I've been running it for about 7 minutes, and now it's almost about time to walk. So, to learn to run, sometimes, do you like that? Some people will see my mannerisms as quaint, entertaining, different from their own. That's good. We are all different. And if you're noticing our differences, you're also noticing our similarities. The similarities are pretty interesting because when we operate from a level of bigotry, we'll come up with every reason to refute the truth. The truth that just because a wasp flew by doesn't mean it's going to sting us. Just because a warrior is in your presence doesn't mean they're here to leverage their warrior powers on you. In fact, just because someone's a warrior doesn't mean that they're not peaceful. So, we can have peaceful warriors. My other channel, I named Spiritual Devil, because what if there are people who were bad, but for whatever reason, they were able to overcome those former bad thoughts, those bad habits, those bad practices, or the lack of practicing, what we preached, the lack of practicing what we pray. What if some of the sayings like exercising our demons is something that we could stand to, or even sit to listen to for just long enough for the information to go in one ear and be retained, so that we no longer spread the generational conversation blockers, like saying that someone is hiding behind their mother's skirt. To do that would require an open heart. It's not going to take a surgery to get to this open heart. An open heart is the truth. And sometimes the truth is way more apparent when you're in the presence of a liar. Because a liar will say things that will automatically be known as a lie as long as there are witnesses in the group, especially if the witnesses in the group speak up. Just as an example, with another relative who used similar tactics, but also some traits of what sometimes is identified as narcissism. They identified with something that I said and refuted it, saying this wasn't true, and went so far as to say, I never talk to my relatives about anything you and I talk about. And so normally I would have to take the word of whoever is saying that. But in the not too distant past, I contacted a relative of a relative because of some of the communication difficulties we were having. I was inclined to think maybe some of this was related to possibly cognitive decline, but more realistically, just some kind of bigotry, an unwarranted disregard for someone for whatever reason. Because whatever I told them seemed to be wrong. Even when I said, when you discuss this with your family, that energy translates into health for whoever is being spoken of. And I don't talk about your family in an ill way. Just because I'll observe and call the truth to attention doesn't mean I'm bringing someone down. It's time to run. So, how did I know that this statement might not be true? Well, when I contacted the relative of the relative about the situation that we'd experienced, another relative of that relative contacted me and spoke with me in person, saying that relative got disturbed. They got disturbed that you were messaging them. You messaged them so many times during their work, while they were working. So this person works in a line where, just like me right now, I have my phone and I'm working. So I don't want an interruption. Like if I'm recording this video, I don't want it interrupted. I have the option of turning that phone off, first of all. Second of all, I sent 3 messages to try and bring about a conversation where we could get another male into the situation. Because I already knew, based on my former teachings, that the other male who was being discussed might say something like, "You're hiding behind a skirt," if we got a female involved. This is just the way it is. So in the 3 messages that I sent back and forth, and even in a more recent message where I asked a direct question to that person, I didn't get an answer. Not only that, but the other relative of the relative that I'd had a disagreement with said, "I never told this other relative about anything we talked about." Well, actually, that's what the person that I had a disagreement with said. But their relative, not the one I reached out to, their relative told me that person, let's call him person C, guy A, B, and C. Person A, who I was talking with, said they hadn't talked with person B. Well, person C hadn't discussed that inaccurate logic with person B. I mean, with person C. Person C and A didn't have a conversation about how they would address this situation. Person A thought it was neutralized. And they talked with person C, probably saying, "Oh, that guy Ray is throwing a tantrum." Well, some of what had happened that called me to bring this conversation to light was, again, because of thoughts of cognitive decline. And if we don't remember the truth, or if we're continuing to make errors, we might want to begin to pay attention. And so for that reason, I was attempting to bring this conversation back to resolved. Anyway, to cut this story somewhat short, person C told me, person B got really mad that you were messaging them all day long about this situation. They work. They have this type of job where they can't be disturbed, where they can put their phone into airplane mode, you mean. And on top of that, that conversation, which happened some time ago, continued to be a subject of discussion because of some of the ways that our regular engagements were going ever since then. So, person C clearly identified to me in the past that person A and person B did talk about this situation. Now, since this point in time, person A and I have come to terms because we had a discussion with someone else in the group who could listen to topics with words such as bigot, not in a way where they're taken so that they're taken to offense, but in a way where they're heard so that they can educate back and forth within this family, who can only be running as a well-oiled machine when we're running together, who can only survive the flood if they're building together for the oncoming weather anomalies. So today, I recognize that in my past, I've been extremely motivated to talk towards anyone who's using packaged items, processed foods. Not against. In fact, you can tell I've got a lot of packaging and processed foods. What I don't have is the misconception as to how much work it's going to take to resolve these matters. So, as you can see, I'm working up a sweat here. This is the first time when I've had to do 7-minute intervals. And I'm talking at the same time. And so, it takes even more energy than if I were just breathing in the fresh air through my nose, breathing it out, but also this topic, I find it quite invigorating. A lot of people will talk about no contact. Don't talk with a narcissist. They'll call him a narcissist. Don't talk with a bigot. Don't call him a bigot. The word by itself is just a word. It's a description. It's a descriptor. And without having a full comprehension of what those descriptors mean or can mean, sometimes we run the risk of something called division. Now, I'm not a math genius. I'm not an ultra marathoner. I'm just your everyday former bigot who feared a lot of things, because I was taught fear, who feared even asking my best friend for help, because asking my best friend, who at the time was a woman, my own mother, even asking my best friend would cause such hostility in some of the role models around me that it became increasingly difficult to speak the truth where the truth was necessary. It became increasingly difficult to focus for long enough. They call it brain fog, cognitive decline. When someone believes the thing they're saying over and over, if someone tells a lie long enough, it becomes the truth to the victor. The victor writes history. There are so many ways where when we start immersing ourselves in opportunities to look for what feels right. What feels right is an open heart conversation. There were teachers of peace who taught these concepts. And in those concepts were many opportunities along the way for redemption. But what if in our world, as we look at the litter strewn about, as we look at the decline of the wildlife, as we look at our own general depletion of health and where our health is going, how it's being converted. Health is wealth, right? So if we all only think in terms of money, in terms of superiority, and if we only think of superiority in terms of a hierarchy of knowledge, we're missing a rich opportunity to refine, to redefine what it is that we consider our realities around us. Some people call chosen people alchemists and magicians, things like that, because they don't have a proper term for concepts like law of attraction and wealth building. They only think of follow the system, keep your head down, don't talk about the truth. That's our mission, people. That's our mission, to speak the truth. The truth will set you free. Might not set everyone else free. It might cause other people great discomfort towards you specifically, because the truth can be a heavy cross to bear if you've never borne that cross from the beginning. So the earlier you start putting in those spiritual miles, the closer you'll become to financial freedom. The closer you'll be to financial freedom. You'll become financial freedom. You'll become someone who is running towards life, towards well-being. I'm going to crank it up a little. Someone who's running not from something, but to something. That higher power that we sometimes talk about calling upon would never prevent us from using the God-given gifts that we have and the opportunities that we've had to discuss some of the corrective actions that could be necessary to help your fellow children, your fellow partners in life, Some of this information is well guarded and quickly silenced. Now, when I was talking about these subjects with my direct family member, who you probably identified either by watching this video and hearing it or by listening to my other channels, some of that information will show you that someone who is your direct blood may not be in your family. And someone who's not your direct blood, you might find them an ally on your side. And if they're on your side, there's nothing that can stop you. If they're on your side wishing well for you, telling their other relatives about how good this person made them feel, that's going to translate into health and abundance and wealth. So when I talk about wealth building, I'm not just saying, hey, let's eat what doesn't come in plastic packaging. Let's eat all natural all the time. Let's shun people who eat one way versus people who eat another way. None of that has anything to do with how we actively treat one another throughout the course of these, maybe the final seconds of the most important game that we've been offered to play. This fitness device provides, like many of them, badges, virtual badges for accomplishments. But the real badge for me is that not too long ago, I could barely go at this clip for 1 minute before feeling panicked, out of breath, overwhelmed. And now, I'm making a, so far, 33-minute video about changing my own life. All I can do is to set a better example to myself, not because it brings any glory to me, because it brings glory to my Creator, my creators, my mother, my father, the higher power that created all of those opportunities for them. And I give full glory to being here with the absolute intention of fixing what I see broken around me, and that is our communication and our communication difficulties that we had experienced in the past that we no longer have to experience. And sometimes your voice might shake when you're telling the truth, but you must speak the truth in order to extinguish the lies. I wrote a whole bunch of songs. If you're into songs poorly sung by me or anyone, please, I welcome you to look further, find my other channel. I'll put a link in the description. If you're a singer who can hear these songs and who can understand what I'm trying to communicate and why, you might find you resonate with the songs enough to sing them yourself. If you know me and you're watching this, you know about synchronicities. You know we're all running. The question is, are we running from something, or are we running to something, and why? So I have to look. This is my third 7-minute run. Again, this is the first time I've done 7-minute runs. As you can see, I'm not taking it too easy. But as you can also see, whew, I am putting in the effort everywhere I can, not just in this aspect of my life, in every aspect. So, I have an odd feeling that I've used words that people believe might define them, instead of having them heard as words that might be a basic descriptor of some of the symptoms that we might be experiencing when it comes to confusion, the spirit of confusion, the spirit of deceit, the spirit of illness. All of those spirits are things that we allow into our life, or that we push back. Not in a devastating way. Sometimes we can just run around them. And if they can't keep up, well, more power to the Creator. Praise and glory to our Creator. And if we don't see how beautiful and how simple these truths are, and if we take offense to truth being brought to light in constructive ways, we might be wanting to look up definitions or videos right here on this channel for the word bigot and or narcissist. My workout has ended. I've gone 2.22 miles. Can't make that up. My total time registered is 38 minutes and a couple of seconds. So, on this device, when I'm running outside, there's a GPS, and the GPS tracks my mileage accurately. Here inside, there's a calibration process that's going on. This device registered my mileage as 2.16 miles. So I'm editing that. 2.22. Treadmill calibration complete. Saving. I guess I'll read to you where I fall currently, because again, this is basically my first full month of taking on running. I've been doing this for about 4 to 6 weeks. But for that period of time, I had a 2-week period of downtime. The information is saved for 2 miles and 2.22 miles. Took me 38 minutes at a rate of about 17.0 something per mile. VO2 max was my training effect. My recovery time is listed as 39 hours. And for my VO2 max, there was no trend. I'm at the bottom of my subset in terms of my VO2 max currently. That doesn't mean that's where it's going to stay. My heart rate variability was balanced, my acute load was optimal, and that's it. I now have 5,812 steps. I wonder if anyone can go back and listen to those footfalls and count them and tell Is that kind of accurate? Do any of you other taller runners find that your step tracker, you have to work so much harder to get your steps? Do any of you find any of this information relevant, useful, truthful? If you do, don't forget to click on subscribe. Please go to my other channel and consider subscribing to that channel. On that channel, I just cracked the 300 subscriber plateau. I'm so grateful for that. I've wanted to stay off of that channel for this year. I want to let it do its own thing. Everything that's on there is more directly related to a personal experience that I believe needed to be called to attention because of the growing threat that had to do with supposed cognitive decline, which had nothing to do with cognitive decline whatsoever. It had a lot to do with being destructively irresponsible. On this particular channel, I just want to showcase the things that make me happy. This channel is called Sharp Instruments. I consider what I was given an instrument. I need to keep this instrument sharp, in shape, in tune. In order to do that, it's going to take positive energy. And that positive energy, sometimes we have to make corrections to the intonations and incantations that other people are sending our way, like when they try to thwart the truth from coming out. Again, I've had discussions with certain key components, key members in my own family, and found that the truth has set me free, and as we continue to bring that to light as something that's non-threatening, it has set other people free as well. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're not discouraged by hearing these direct examples. I hope that you're not discouraged if you yourself are having trouble stepping onto the treadmill because you believe that it's too tall to step onto. I hope that you at least start somewhere and give praise to the fact that you can actually do something today. Not everyone has that chance. Here in this country where I'm at, we have so much opportunity. We're fortunate. So I'm trying to turn the table to where we live a life of excess and overlooking the trash that's all around us, to transforming all of that extra energy into something that can bring peace and positive change into this world. We are the creators of this world that we live in. Until next time, stay tuned. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.